Hello, hello, and welcome back to Martinis and Bikinis. I am your hostess, Veronica Droulia, and today we have a super cool guest on. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you know that I am obsessed with this place called Sage and Sound on the Upper East Side. If you don't know what it is, it's right near my apartment, so it's so convenient for me, but it's like this health and wellness sanctuary that's tucked away in the city. They have a plant-focused cafe called Isle of Us. Their breakfast burrito is to die for. I was literally there yesterday and got that. Sage and Sound, where they host sound baths, sell wellness products, and have other holistic offerings like Reiki, which I really want to do soon, massages, all the things. They even have a non-toxic nail salon attached. Anywho, that is where I met today's guest, who is an expert sound healer and meditation guide. I talk about meditation a lot on here, so I figured it was best to bring in an expert and a professional. She even has her master's in nutrition and is an urban gardening aficionado. So before our recording, she is the sweetest thing ever. She handed me these fresh baked cookies that she baked with no refined sugar, no gluten, no dairy, which is like so my speed. And when I tell you they were the most amazing cookies I've ever had, I cannot stop thinking about them. I need to be stocked at all times. They were so delicious. Anyway, today we are going to be chatting meditation, visualization, healing trauma, and so much more. So, without further ado, my little teenies, please welcome the one, the only, Courtney Capazzi to Martinis and Bikinis.
Hello, and welcome to Martinis and Bikinis, the podcast for everything under the sun. I am your hostess, Veronica Droulia, and I am here to help you navigate your 20s through all things lifestyle, beauty, and fashion. So, if you're ready, let's dive into today's episode. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to Martinis and Bikinis, Courtney.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's so funny because whenever we first met, we were with our mutual friend, Rachel.
Yes.
And I had just moved to New York. I think I had gotten there that week. And I walked into Sage and Sound, which is where you do sound healing and sound bowls and just all of those good things. And Rachel ran into you, and we actually realized that we were part of the same program. It was this wellness program that our friend Rachel had started called Momentum. And that was such a fun time. It was during COVID. Is that when you did it too?
I don't even know how I found Momentum or that group of girls, but it was so fun. It was just something to create community when there was none, right? Like I was stuck at home with my family. So I'd run upstairs and do those little meetings, and it just brought so much light to my day.
I agree. I think that's my number one memory from COVID is signing on to my Momentum meetings and meeting with my group and doing my challenges. So if you guys have not heard of Momentum, basically our friend Rachel started it during COVID, and it was this course where you would be with this small group of girls and there would be a leader leading you through these different challenges every week. Yeah. So for example, one was a cold shower every day. And that was kind of my first experience with cold therapy and learning about Wim Hof and all of that stuff. What else did we do?
I don't even remember, but it was good. I think one of them was like a 5-minute meditation.
Right.
It was such a good accountability partner too, to like hold you to each challenge each week.
For sure. Some of the practices I still do to this day. I know one was the power list. So it was 5 things that you had to write down that you had to get done that day. And it didn't have to be work related. It could be, oh, I'm going to do a meditation today, or I'm going to call my mom today. And you basically just cross off the list throughout the day. And then once you're done, you can write like a big W over it, and it means you won the day. So I still do that to this day.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I love that. You have a better memory than I, because I don't remember all this stuff.
Well, it was forever ago.
Yeah, it was.
Well, it seems like forever ago.
I'm a Virgo too, so I live by lists. So I do that 5 to-do list every week.
Yeah.
And more. You know, my lists are too long.
I love Virgos. Virgos are so fun because I feel like Virgos have really good taste and you like know what you like, but you're also just like chill. Like you're a good vibe, like good energy.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my experience with Virgos.
I'm a double Virgo, so I'm a Virgo sun, Virgo moon. So I'm a ride and die Virgo.
Oh, I love it.
It can be intense sometimes. We're very orderly and like things very particular, attention to detail. But also I think we're very empathetic and creative. So what's your sign?
I'm a Capricorn.
You're a Capricorn.
Yeah.
I see that for you.
Aquarius rising.
Very warm.
Yeah. I'm a cusp though, which is interesting because I'm a rising of Aquarius, but I'm also on the last day of Capricorn.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah. I love zodiac. I love astrology. I think it's so interesting. And I think there's a lot of people that try to debunk it. But I think also whenever we're really young, we start learning about our zodiacs and it kind of starts getting programmed into our subconscious.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of a big part of it too. So when people are like, I don't believe in it, I'm like, well, it's true. Because, if somebody's a Gemini, I know they're a Gemini. Or if somebody's a Pisces, I know that they're a Pisces.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's interesting how that all works.
It is interesting. I feel like it's something that I definitely want to dive more into as I progress in my life. I don't know. I've met some really interesting people who are really into astrology. And while I always like to reference the practice, it's not something that I've learned that much about.
Yeah.
But I feel like every time I meet someone, I can their sign makes sense.
You can feel their energy.
Right?
So tell us more about what you do, because you are a sound healer, you do meditations, and you are a guide. And I think that whole realm is so interesting to me. I've been talking a lot on the show about HZ sound frequencies and just sound healing in general. And I'm a big lover of music, and I feel like it definitely is such just a driven force in my life. And that's why I was so excited to have you on, because I feel like you know all of the knowledge about this space. But I guess speaking of astrology, I feel like astrology and the positioning of the moon and things like that, whenever it comes to meditations and full moon baths and things like that, I feel like they're all kind of intertwined somehow. I always feel like whenever I hear about sound meditations or sound baths, a lot of them fall on the new moon or the full moon, things like that. So
if you think about just in terms of astrology and why a lot of times you have big events falling on those days is, well, for women, our cycle also runs with the moon in the same 30-day cyclic cycle. So there's a lot of power in that. And the ocean also follows the path of the moon. And when you kind of foster a lot of energy on those days. So it's really powerful practice. Sometimes you can release energy or foster a new rebirth. We just had the equinox, which was yesterday, actually, last night.
Oh my gosh.
And so the equinox is really about rebirth and going into spring, just fostering new energy, leaving behind whatever you don't want to have in your life or proceed forward with, and really creating anew. And so a lot of times I think it's just about really fostering that energy. So like I said before, it's definitely something that I'm not fully an expert on, definitely more in tune with the sound and the meditation.
Yeah.
And I totally love to read about astrology and learning about the different moon cycles and hosting events on those days. But in terms of meditation and sound healing, there's so much I could say, but I guess we'll start with how I got into it.
Yeah, when did you get into it?
So as a child, I used to do body scans in bed. And it was a practice that I swore by. And so I would start by clenching my toes, and I would move up to my calves, and I would work through my entire body. And I would envision myself melting into the cushion beneath me. And I had a lot of trouble sleeping when I was little. I had a lot of anxiety just from trauma that I had dealt with in my life. And I had a few I mean, we all have our things,
Right.
but so that was my one coping mechanism, and I swore by it. And I would tell my mom and my friends, like, if anyone complained to me that they couldn't sleep, I'd be like, well, I have a practice for you. And then as I grew older, I came to learn about meditation and realized that it was something that I was already practicing. And so upon realizing that, it kind of opened the door. And I feel like in a lot of ways, this practice chose me rather than me coming to it. I used to work in fashion.
Oh, okay.
Actually, right down the street from where we are now.
No way. Where did you work?
I worked at Loft. I designed pants for 4 years.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so that was an interesting time in my life. But
That's
we
super
actually
cool.
had, yeah, it was fun. It was definitely fun. I enjoyed the experience, but the waist was not for me, I'll say. But we had someone come in and host a meditation, and from that day on, I was hooked. I was like, I need to do a training, right? And I kept doing research, and then eventually I actually got a scholarship to do a training at the school that the woman came to teach from.
What
So
a
it was
full
just
circle
like,
moment.
yeah, and everything, a lot of times I felt like it was gifted to me rather than me finding it. So
Yeah, it found you.
yeah, exactly.
I love that. I think meditation can be such a hard subject for people to grasp that have a hard time really centering and kind of having that quiet time and having to think about certain things. And I think whenever I first started with it, I remember I was super young. I was in middle school and I had a lot of family stuff going on, and I would lock myself in my room and I would go to YouTube and I would type in meditation, and I would just sit there and think that I had to actually stop thinking about everything. And then as I got older, I realized that there's other modalities of it and you don't actually have to stop thinking.
Yeah, of course.
I know some people I don't know what it's called, but after you meditate, you write down what you were thinking of. And
a reflection.
Yeah, like a reflection. And then I got into body scans and chakras and balancing and Wim Hof breathing and breath work. And I think it's just so cool to see where you've started with meditation and how you kind of grow into it as you get accustomed to it. So how did you get into sound bowl healing? Because do you have to go to a class for that, or do you just start playing around at home with all the bowls? I'm so curious as to people how they get involved in it.
Yeah, so after doing my meditation training, I just kept diving deeper, and I've done so many different trainings, but I decided to experiment with a sound therapy training. And so I went to school. It was almost, yeah. So you go for a bunch of weekends.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And it was honestly such a beautiful experience. And the really cool thing about sound, so I actually also have my master's in nutrition.
Oh my
so
goodness.
I can geek out on the science a little bit.
You are a woman of many hats: fashion, nutrition, sound bowl healing, all the things.
Mostly wellness. And
you also have a cookie business. You gave me some of your cookies, and I am just so inspired by you. You were killing it.
But look at you doing this. So I can't even say.
Oh my gosh. Well,
I can't even
thank
talk.
you. That's sweet. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're good.
So sound bowl school.
Yes. I can geek out for hours on the science of sound. And it's so, so interesting. So I don't know if you've ever seen those videos of the girls talking to their water. Have you seen that? Okay, so there's a little bit of a thing that happens. I don't know if you've seen this, but there's some videos on the internet circulating of girls talking to their water. And the reason why they do that is because water can change its cellular structure based off sound frequency and the vibrations of the energy in the room, essentially.
Wow.
So, when you go out in nature and you automatically feel a little bit more calm, right? And I think everyone can agree with that. It's like
Definitely.
a known thing. You go to nature, you feel more relaxed. And the reason that is because of the vibratory energy of nature. So everything around you, whether it's a still object or a moving object or a living object, everything in this universe has a vibrational energy. Thus, everything has sound. We may not be able to hear that, but everything does contain sound. And the laws of physics tell us that everything will assimilate to the vibrations around it. So New York, for instance, is a really high vibrational city and a really extreme city because there's so much energy here. There's so much going on, and you could feel that. And so the really cool thing about sound healing is our bodies are impacted by the vibrations of the frequencies and the tunes that we're playing.
Yeah.
So the water, as the water, the structure of the water, the cellular structure changes in our bodies as well. So you'll see a water in its chaotic state is kind of the cellular structure is a little chaotic and random. Chaotic is the like proper scientific term. But when you play specific sound frequencies, you'll see the water change its cellular structure. And actually, like 528 hertz frequency, for instance, will make water a perfect hexagonal shape. So it's so interesting. And it's really cool to experience how each sound frequency can impact your body and feel different in your body and bring up different emotions and unblock different feelings. And it's really just one modality of exploration of the body and exploration of self and exploration of the universe as one whole unit and being, because it kind of just demonstrates how everything influences one another.
Yeah.
And I think even from like a Buddhist philosophy and perspective, just quickly to bring this up, but the concept of Buddhism, or one of the concepts in Buddhism, states that we are all one, and that the illusion of self is really what drives us to be unhappy.
Yeah.
And so sound frequency has this beautiful way of showing us that we are all, in fact, one, and that everything around you influences you because you are connected to it from a really soul level.
That is so cool. And I've gotten so into my sound frequencies. So every morning whenever I'm journaling or I'm having my matcha, by the way, we have matcha in our martini glass today.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Cheers to that. Cheers to science. But I've been doing like 777 HD and is it 528? Is that what you said?
528.
Been doing
the frequency
that.
of love.
And I instantly feel amazing in the morning whenever I just have that in my earphones and I'm just journaling and doing my morning routine.
It can be really helpful as well to retain information. So if you're studying for an exam, playing these hertz frequencies can help to really tune in. And there's like studies on this that show that when you play these hertz frequencies, that it can help to increase focus and awareness.
I actually was laying in bed the other day, and I don't know about you, but daylight savings really messed me up. And I was so exhausted, but I know I had a lot to do. So I grabbed my headphones and I put in like an energy hertz frequency. And I don't know if it was placebo or if it was obviously the molecular fixation of my body changing, but I immediately was like, oh my gosh, it's time to go. Let's go. And I got up and I started doing all my tasks. And I am just such a believer in it. And I feel like it's one of those modalities that you definitely have to try.
Yeah.
Because it's just really refreshing. And I think music is healing. And I was reading before you got here about how it can actually help to heal like trauma.
Yeah.
Which I find really interesting.
It really can. And even just resonant sound in general can really help to bring up past traumas in your life. So if a certain sound can remind you of something that you experienced and help you move through that energy. And even especially when it comes to dance as well, and including movement in with the sound can really help to move energy throughout the body, really move any blockages and help us to just feel so good. And dance is a ceremony that's been practiced for hundreds and thousands of years, since the beginning of time, really. So it's so beautiful. And I wish that we had more ceremony around dance and sound with dance, because, now we see it in coordination with alcohol at parties, which no problem. But, I feel like sometimes when I'm alone in my apartment and I blast some nostalgic music and dance, there's just nothing like it.
Oh, I feel like it's such an energy release.
It really is.
I used to do morning dance parties with myself, and I haven't done it in forever, and I honestly need to, because I feel like it's so freeing. And I feel like it's a great way to just release some energy, especially after a good night of sleep. I know that our cortisol levels just naturally rise whenever we wake up. So it's nice to just kind of shake it off.
Get it out.
Swifty. Shake 100%. It off. But I think just the whole sound field is just so wild to me. And it's crazy that you take these giant bowls and these, what are they called? They're
called crystal singing bowls.
Does your wrist ever get sore?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, you're playing them very lightly.
Yeah.
And also, I can always take a break if my wrist gets sore.
That's true.
They sing really beautifully as well, so they carry the sound longer than you play them.
That's so beautiful.
It really is beautiful. And I also really love the wave drum as well, which it sounds like a wave. So it really has, you can tell a story with it.
Yeah.
And I a lot of times when I facilitate, I love to incorporate visualization and storytelling. And
oh my gosh, that's so cool. I think
there's so much power in combining the sound frequency with also lived experience, and really thinking about other tools that you can include, like breath work and visualization. It really just can help to hit different.
Definitely.
And in terms of visualization, if I can say it right.
No, you're good.
There's some really cool science about that too. I don't know. I'm so weird about the science. I'm a Virgo, so I'm a researcher.
Oh my gosh, tell us the science. I've been talking about visualization a lot on the show, because I feel like it's a way for our body to internally process information before we externally start taking action towards it.
Exactly.
And on last week's episode, or 2 weeks ago, I talk about how in life we have to give ourselves permission with conviction. And I feel like a big part of that is just mentally being cognizant of what you're able to achieve in life.
Yeah.
And I feel like meditation too is such a prime way to be able to prime your brain into this next level reality for you.
Absolutely. I think in terms of visualization and incorporating that into your practice, it can really help to allow your body to align with the frequency, to go back to sound.
Yeah.
Align with the frequency. Okay, so this is my weird belief system. And I don't know if this is true. This is just my own perception of reality. So I believe that we live on different energy fields and different energy planes. Cool. Almost like you can visualize an onion with different layers, right? And so each layer has a different vibrational frequency. And as we know it, time and space is kind of an illusion, right? There's this illusion of forward moving time, but in reality, we don't know if there actually is this so strict timeline as we see it. Right? So in living in these different vibratory frequency fields, you will assimilate, like we were saying with sound, to everything that's going on around you. So when you can use visualization as a practice and really begin to imagine yourself in a different state, then you can jump frequency fields and really like elevate and go to a whole different field way quicker than you could imagine.
That's cool.
So that's my little...
I like that ideology. I think that's super cool. And this is kind of random, but I went to this wellness retreat a few years ago, and this was kind of my first experience with chakra balancing. And we did like a chakra balancing meditation with some sound healing, and we basically go through all the colors within each chakra unit, and we try to visualize them, and that's usually what you do. But whenever we got to the root chakra, it was weird. I was like vividly seeing every single color. Like I closed my eyes and like it was just so potent. It was so weird. And then whenever we got to the root chakra, I just like drew a blank, like could not see anything.
Interesting.
And I asked afterwards to the guide, her name is Jess Stone. I don't know if you've heard of Jess, but she is like tarot and she does channeling out in LA. And I asked her, I said, hey, was it weird that I could see every color and it was like super visual and potent besides my root chakra? She was like, well, are you like really emotional right now? And I was like, kind of. Like I was like almost about to start crying.
Right.
And I'm not a crier either. So it was just super weird. And she says, well, Veronica, your root chakra is really just correlated to childhood trauma and past trauma. And those were things that I hadn't sorted through yet. And I immediately got so excited to go home and work on those things. And I did Reiki for the first time and just like got really into like just healing in general and like the whole holistic scene. But I think it's so interesting how like sound and meditation can help us understand that maybe there's energy in parts of our body that needs more attention. And for me, that's what I needed at that point.
For sure.
And
it's also interesting how when we tune in, we can really uncover this story and this things that we need to work out and things that we need to release, especially in the root. I really like to I do a lot of pelvic work with the pelvic floor. I think it's really important, especially for women. We tend to store a lot of our energy and trauma in our pelvic floor and clenching without even noticing it throughout the day. And a lot of women hold a lot there. And whether it's been direct relationship from sexual trauma or, you know, just storing energy at your root, right? Because the pelvic floor lives right at that root chakra. And as women, we will clench all day and not even take a moment to release it. So a lot of times when I'm working with new clients, a practice that I'll give them is just every day for 5 minutes, just bring attention to your pelvic floor.
I'm doing that right now. I'm like, am I clenching?
And just like clench, hold it. I'm doing it right now.
Doing it too.
Clench, hold it, and then soften. And see if you can hold this off.
Yeah.
And like that's the hard part.
It is hard.
It's hard to hold
That's
this
crazy.
soft. And then another way you can do it is visualize when you're going to the bathroom, which sounds really silly, but really actually helps. Like visualize a stream of water leaving you and imagine that you're letting go of any stored trauma.
That is so
Just
interesting.
and like these are the little practices, because I think we're so busy as humans and as individuals, and sometimes people can't find 5 minutes to do a practice. And the reality of it is that sometimes people are scared to do 5 minutes of quiet time. So when you can give them these little moments of when you're on the bathroom, when you're peeing, right? Instead of looking at your phone or instead of like working through thoughts in your mind, just have this visualization practice and see what changes in your life, because you know, believe me, there are shifts.
Yeah.
And so it's just like these
little things that you
practices.
can bring into your life that aren't necessarily changing your daily schedule, or you have to experiment with something new. It's things that you're already doing, and like how you can just create a visualization method towards it. I think that's super cool.
Exactly.
Are there any other like practices that you'll tell people to do in their daily life that you think might be helpful for people to hear?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's so many breathing techniques. Just like a 4-4 box breathing technique is really helpful. I also really like to incorporate the sensation of feeling into your heart and just noticing the beating of your heart. And that's something that can sometimes, when I first started doing it, I would get nervous because I would tune into my heart and be like, is it beating right? Even though, like, if I'm not paying attention, you know, like, it just goes and I don't think about it.
Yeah.
But when you just take time to tune into your body and just notice your surroundings, or take a moment to just listen to the sounds around you, it can be really freeing. And again, just to go back to that illusion of separation, I think that that is really at the root of a lot of our issues as a society. And just a random aside, I'm also really interested in farming randomly.
Oh, okay.
And
tell us about that.
So I have my master's in nutrition, as I was saying before, and partly why I did that is because eventually I would love to own a farm. And just something that I'm really passionate about is our food system and the way that we've kind of harmed this world with pesticides and chemicals and monocropping and inorganic cropping and the use of large-scale farms. And that kind of goes hands in hand with this concept of separation and the illusion of self, right? Because we've taken the crop out of the diversity of the organism of the universe as one. And we've taken wheat or corn, for instance, and planted it for hundreds of miles and assumed that it was going to be fine, right? And then we sprayed it with synthetic chemical pesticides, and that whole process is kind of taking the organism out of its natural cycle and out of its natural home. And when we find, when we have a diverse farm and diverse land, and we're able to plant different plants next to each other and have animal rotation and, you know, feed the soil and diversify the organism of the farm, then the plants thrive without the use of pesticides. And then we thrive because we get to consume the more nutrient dense food that comes from these farms. And that also kind of comes back to that cycle of we are one.
So I'm forgetting her name. I think it's Shanna, but she's on TikTok. She decided one day to move to Italy, and she bought a farm. And she like lives this cottagecore lifestyle on her farm. She grows everything herself, has animals, and is just living her best life.
Yes.
And I think she is like a private chef. She's like trained to be a chef. So she just like makes all these fabulous meals all day.
Yes.
And she is my comfort creator for sure. But
that is my,
I'm manifesting that for you.
Me too. That is what I'm visualizing every morning. And I actually do this. This is part of my practice. Like, I want to have a farm. I want to have, ideally, I'll have like a sound healing center on my farm. And like, just like almost like a retreat center.
I want to come.
A little cafe. And I make sure that every day, no matter what I'm doing, that it aligns with this vision.
Yeah.
And so that's like, if everything I do in a day aligns with this vision, then I am complete for the day.
Well, it sounds lovely. It really does.
Do you have anything that you're like, your end goal?
My end goal. You know, I feel like right now I don't really know.
That's okay too.
And I think that kind of scares me sometimes because I
love to travel and I just love being in all these different places. But my mom's always like, when are you going to stop and settle down? And I just don't know if I ever will. And I think that's what I love about life, is just being present and enjoying these experiences. But I think end goal, I feel like I am just so happy with where my life is. I know. I feel like I manifested the life that I wanted, and it just keeps getting better. And
It makes me really proud.
yeah, I'm just like kind of seeing what happens now. I'm game for anything though. You know, I'm game for an adventure.
See, that's an amazing way to live life.
Yeah.
You're just open to whatever comes.
But if you were to ask me that like 2 years ago, I would tell you what I'm doing right now.
Yay.
So I feel really blessed.
It. You visualized it and you made it happen.
I did. I did. But, you know, obviously there's still so many things in life that I want to do.
Yeah.
But I would love just to get your opinion. I know that there's a lot of people out there, and I said this at the beginning of the episode, that are scared of meditation or don't feel like they can sit through something for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. What is some advice that you would give to somebody to get started on their meditation practice and journey, and why?
Yeah. So as you were saying earlier, I think a lot of people are scared to A, listen to their thoughts, and B, there's this illusion that you have to not think while you meditate, and that's not true at all.
Yeah, it didn't go well for me.
Yeah.
I was like crying in my room. I'm like, why can't I stop thinking about anything?
We are humans. Our minds think, and that's what they're made to do.
Right.
And that, from an evolutionary standpoint, has allowed us to live as long as we have. So it's a great thing that we have these thinking minds. And it's the practice of meditation is really about being able to separate your thoughts, the ones that serve you and the ones that don't, and really being able to pick and choose. And you can kind of, as you advance your practice, you can kind of open the space between the thoughts. So it's not so rampant and it's not so overwhelming all the time. And just the first step, I think, is recognizing that you have this thinking mind. And I think sometimes we don't even take the time to stop and recognize that. So even if it's 5 minutes in a taxi or on your lunch break, I think habit stacking can be really helpful. Doing it in the shower can be really helpful, because then you have the energy of the flowing water. And just dedicating 3-5 minutes even to noticing the thoughts in your mind and just bringing awareness to them, and maybe coming to attention in the sounds of the room or the feelings of the room, or bringing awareness to your senses and noticing your sense of sight, sense of taste, your sense of smell, and just really playing with different focus practices can be so helpful and so transformative. And if you're someone who likes control, visualization is a really great practice, because you can kind of manipulate the practice in a way. So like that's a really good practice for someone who needs to like A, B plus C, you know?
Yeah.
And then breath work is also a really good tool to use if you're just starting out. So all of these practices are great. I have meditations on my website too, and on my YouTube channel. So that's also a good resource.
For sure. So what's like your routine with meditation? Do you have one specifically, or does it kind of depend day by day? Or, you know, do you have like a practice when you wake up in the morning? How does that look like for you?
So I have a 20-minute practice that I do every morning. And then some days it's shorter than that, depending on what I have going on. But I try and do 20 minutes. And then I also do a practice every evening. I still do my body scan to this day. So that is like my ride or die practice. Yeah. And then I also incorporate a lot of breath work and manifestation and different techniques. And I go to a lot of classes, which is fun. And, you know, I like to experiment with new stuff too. Currently, I've been doing a lot of breath work just because it really helps to move energy through the body, and it kind of will help you bring up emotions and release some trauma. And there's a lot more recently that's been coming up from my childhood. So I've been trying to work through some of that. And so breathwork has been really transformative in that.
Yeah. So have you ever done the class? It's a workout class called The Class. Oh my gosh, we have to go together.
Okay, I'm down.
It's basically, I just think you'd really like it.
Okay.
So I went in LA, but I think they have it here too. And it's this class where it's kind of just like a lot of like movement, and like it kind of relates back to what you're saying about like dance and music. And I think it's kind of a more like, it's definitely very woo woo for people that are like, okay, like that's not for me. Like, you know, people that are kind of like swayed away from like, I guess, woo woo culture. I'm woo woo, but I love it. You basically just like move around, and like there's like cool music, and you don't really talk too much.
Okay.
You like scream kind of.
See, I love this already.
I'm explaining it really bad, but
no,
yeah.
I want to go. Let's do it.
Let's do it together. It's super fun.
Next date.
Yes, absolutely. So last question.
Yeah.
I ask everybody this,
Okay.
and I always find it really interesting to hear people's responses because everybody's unique and different. If you were to drink a martini in a bikini, where would you be and what would you be drinking? And it doesn't have to be alcohol. It can be matcha. It could be bone broth. It could be water. It could be whatever.
Okay. I think, where would I be? I would be on the beach with my grandfather and my mom.
Aww.
Just because my grandfather is not doing so well. So I just want to spend every moment possible with him. And I would be drinking, let's see, I guess let's stick with matcha.
Yeah.
I'm a matcha girl through and
Ice
through.
cold or hot?
I like a hot matcha.
Okay.
A matcha tea. 3/4 water, 1/4
Yes.
frothed milk. And if I wanted to get fancy, we can throw a little element packet in there.
Oh.
Sweeten it up.
Yeah. Wait, that's a really good tip.
Yeah.
An element packet?
Yeah.
Isn't that the hydration packet?
Yeah.
That's genius.
I do half because they're very sweet. They're very sweet.
Yeah.
They're very salty too. But
Yeah.
it's a good
way to get electrolytes.
exactly. And
Yeah.
it like adds a little sweetness. So
I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna do that.
Weirdly enough, I like to put like the chocolate flavors. That sounds so strange.
Wait, no, it sounds good.
But it's really good. It's like a chocolate matcha.
Yeah.
Yum.
I'm doing that. Do you sell them at Sage and Sound?
No.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
Well, I'll order them online.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, also, I would love for you to share how people can connect with you, be friends, do your meditations, all the things. And for those of you that are unaware of what Sage and Sound is, it's an incredible wellness space on the Upper East Side here in New York. They have like healthy cafe attached called Isle of Us. They also have a non-toxic nail salon attached. They do sound meditations, massages. Have all these incredible products.
Reiki, acupuncture.
Wow.
Everything.
I need to do Reiki there.
Yeah.
It's next on my list. But I'm also coming to your sound meditation on April 6th
Yes.
at 12 p.m. So if anybody wants to come with, sign up and hopefully I'll see you there. But yeah, feel free to share how people can connect.
Yeah. So as you were saying, you can find me at Sage and Sound. I teach there every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then also some Saturdays, some Sundays, kind of all over the place. But every week I'm there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday teaching. And then you can also connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram is Courtney Meditates. So it's pretty easy to find. And then I also have a website, which is Your Vessel like body, but spelt with 2 C's for my name. So VECCEL. And on there, you'll find some free meditations. And my YouTube is also linked. And you'll find meditations on there as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Courtney. It was such a treat.
Me. It was so fun. And I hope you enjoy your cookies.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait. So refined sugar free,
dairy-free, gluten-free.
Yeah,
This is my jam.
Sweetened with coconut sugar, made with olive oil, so no seed oils.
Love.
And they're super tasty, and they have adaptogens in them too. So we have ashwagandha, reishi, and maca.
I am so amazed. Y'all, I walked in, Courtney hands me this giant bag of cookies and she's like, I made you cookies. And I look at it and it's this beautiful branding. And I thought you would pick them up from the store. I mean, I think this is your calling. You're going to have your farm and you're going to make cookies. It's going to be beautiful.
I'll die a happy life if that is.
I can't wait to see that unwind and unravel. And yeah, you guys stay up to date with Courtney. She has all these amazing classes and resources for you to get jump started with meditation and sound healing. And yeah, if you like this episode, please feel free to like, rate, and subscribe. And it's the best way to help the podcast. And it is greatly appreciated. But I will see you guys next week. And cheers.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.